Hey guys, what's up? It's Sean, Autotopia LA. Couple things right before we get started. Number one is our new design is out. The merch store is open, atlamerch.com, and we do still have a handful of things left. So head on over if you want to buy some of the new design. The other thing is I want to make a mention about my friends Auto Revolution. They have a great YouTube channel, very cool guys. If you get a moment and you're looking for something different but similar to what we do, head over to Auto Revolution. Really cool guys, and you'll learn a lot from these guys. So that being said, yes, I'm Sean. This is Sean as well. SoCal Rods and Customs.
Yes, sir.
How long are you in business for?
I've been doing this my entire life. I've had this business going for about 8 years now, roughly.
I was assuming longer because I know you said the car that we're shooting today, you built this car, you said 15
About 15 years ago, yeah.
What year Chevelle is this?
This is a 65 Chevelle. This was one of those cars that when we started it, I asked the customer once we blasted to bare metal, I was like, maybe we should find another car because it was in such bad shape. He said, no, let's repair this one. So we repaired it.
You did a bit more than repair here, right?
For sure.
Let's start like foundationally, I guess, and we'll work our way up to the extraordinary amount of metal work on this car. Is it a full custom chassis build or is it on its original?
It's on its original chassis, heavily modified. It has air ride technology, control arms, and basically air ride technology is complete airbag kit for it. Fully custom still, Fab 9 rear end in it.
Why don't we walk up front? Because I'm always, I always love to see what's going on under the hood.
We did lots of little details, like you look at the hood safety relays. It's just a little button right here. Not only did we do that, but then you look at like the little cover we built to cover the metal rod, so you don't see the metal rod in there.
I've never, ever, not one time have I seen that on a car. Not once.
And the only problem this one has is it's 15 years old, so the button's a little sticky right now. It needs to be lubed up.
We're like old school here.
It is old school, 383 stroker motor. Roller rocker, everything built like you'd want a 383 built.
Okay. Do you know the power? Do you remember what it makes?
I would guess and say it's nothing compared to today's standards, you know,
Yeah,
but I guess
sure.
say it's probably about 450 is what I would guess.
Yeah. I bet it still does a burnout if you want to.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, definitely.
You know?
It's more of a cruiser car than a race car.
Of course. I mean, if you're putting it on air right away, my head instantly goes to cruise.
Definitely.
More so. Well, you can really see the frame.
Yeah, and we powder coated the frame silver to kind of make it stand out and see, but there's lots of little details, even if you look at like the way the fender wells are all cut out around all the control arms. Firewall, you see no brake booster, no master cylinder, nothing. It's all nice and smooth.
And is that where your fillers are at?
That's a filler for the master cylinder, yes. And all the AC hoses and heater hoses, everything are pretty much hidden, all except right here where it comes out to the motor.
Right.
Everything on this thing, the core support, everything was built from scratch. Nothing you could buy. And this thing even has like built hood hinges, but at the time they didn't make them for these cars. So these were off of a different car, and we had to modify the hood, modify the fender and everything to make them work on this car.
Because you couldn't just hit Eddie Motorsports or Ring Brothers or any of these guys to get,
No, wasn't available then. Headers on this thing, it's been so long, I don't remember. They're black.
You guys, we're going heavy detail on you. The headers are black.
700 R4 transmission, so it's a 4-speed automatic.
What's the gearing? Do you remember the gearing on the rear?
It would be 373s.
Yeah, makes sense. And now exhaust, will you guys from the header back do all custom
It
stuff?
is all custom build underneath. It's oval tubing, because on these cars it's always real hard with the way the floors are to get the exhaust through.
Sure.
So we do over tubing to keep it a little bit narrower.
Sure.
And it's all manual bent. It's all bare brakes. This was kind of before they had 18-inch rotors and all that stuff. So
Right.
I believe it was just like 12-inch rotors and bare 4-piston calipers all the way around. So I believe this was.
Gotcha. Manual or powered brakes?
Power brakes.
Okay.
Not the best power brakes in the world because the 383 doesn't create much vacuum. So it's a little boost, but not a lot.
So you still got to put a little foot in it.
That you do. Keeps you on your toes.
So walk me through your metal. I mean, one of which I see your bumpers are significantly tucked here.
It's kind of hard to say, but like if you look at starting with the front bumper,
Yep.
if you look here how it kind of has this teardrop on it.
Yep.
These cars never did that. They had a straight edge there. The rear bumpers had those teardrops on them. We basically duplicated the rear bumper with that. And then we cut and narrowed the bumper, sunk it in on each side, then we sunk it into the body there, you can see. And we also sunk the bumpers back into the car on the front, got rid of the turn indicators and everything that were in it as well.
Yeah.
And then from there, working our way up, you can see the grill here. These had what was like a floating grill originally. So we made all this painted part. And if you look at all the trim pieces, we built every single piece of trim on it as well.
God, the amount of time on that.
And even the center, the perforated part, if you look how it sticks out, it's not flush.
Yeah.
So we built wood bucks and we actually formed metal around it to fit it.
The metalwork, the artistry that goes into metalwork blows me away, you know.
And there is, and we talked a little bit on the hood, how it has a safety release there.
Yeah.
But the other part of the hood is these cars originally don't have a header panel like this. This is part of the hood. We took it and made it kind of like a Camaro has a header panel across them. We cut the front of the hood off and made this part of the body.
So is this still part of the original hood that you converted and made it part of the body?
100%.
Wow, dude. And
So it shortened the hood by whatever that is, 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah.
And then as we go around, we shaved all the cowl, all the vents and everything off it, as well as welded it into the car. The rockers and everything, got rid of all the seams, whatever there was down there, got rid of all that stuff, cleaned it up.
Welds and all that kind of stuff.
Cleaned up all that stuff.
Yeah.
We shaved the door handles on it.
Which we were talking about off camera. That's one of the elements of this car that dates itself. It's not,
Definitely.
we're not seeing it that much. If anybody wants the shaved look, they're going with like a Kindig handle, or I've seen Tesla handles, you know, so.
Yeah. I used to do lots and lots of these, and
Sure.
I can't tell you how many door handles I've shaved, but
Sure.
it definitely dates a car for sure.
It does. And I don't care. You know, I mean, look, it's a 15-year-old build, and the truth is, I mean, let's be honest, dude, this car's held up extremely well for a 15-year-old build, you know?
Definitely.
But that is one of those things where, like, you ain't doing that nowadays. By the way, what are these from?
Those were actually off of Honda S2000. All we used was the top part of the mirror. If you look at the base, this is all metal. We had to build this base from scratch in order to fit the door and be at the right angle and everything on it.
Unbelievable.
And there's still power, and all the power's hooked up and works on them.
Really?
So then continuing on with the sides of it, basically we shaved it, any seams, everything. There's a little bit of a flare, it's kind of hard to see, but a little bit of a flare to fit the tires in the back. A little bit of a tub was done as well.
Okay. What does that allow for as far as, like, you know, I hadn't asked you before, but your wheel and tire sizes?
My memory doesn't go back that far.
I got it, okay.
I've built a couple cars since then.
You have, haven't you?
Yeah, 200, 300 in there since then.
Yeah.
But I'll get back to you later about that.
Sorry, you guys, we don't have wheel and tire sizes for you, but from what I can tell, it looks like you got a pretty good sized back tire.
The back's wide and the front's narrower.
Yeah. I like that it's flared a little bit, but you really...
Very little.
You can't tell.
It's been so long, I want to say it was like 3/4 of an inch or something.
Got it.
Very minimal.
Yeah.
So then moving back here, on these cars originally, the trunk actually comes over to about here. And this is at a big angle. We decided to straighten it out and make it to where it matched the hood. So this panel here is just as thick as the top.
Does this line really continue and stay straight with that line?
Yes.
Oh, wow, dude.
And then the second part of the trunk is on these cars originally, the trunk goes all the way down to the bumper. Well, on this one, we cut off and made that part of the car.
From the same, or is this a new piece of metal back here?
I don't remember if that was the same or we made that from scratch. I want to say we probably made that from scratch.
Yeah, I get it.
And then the lenses, like all the taillight lenses, we made bucks and we made all these lenses from scratch to make them sit flush and sit like they should. The taillights are actually duplicated of like a 64 Chevelle rather than a 65. This car's a mixture of 64 and 5.
What's the material?
Plexiglass. I made bucks over it, made out of wood and Bondo, just whatever, because it was just for a buck. And then we actually put them in my oven at my house, and we actually formed it and had it wrap over it. Granted, there was several trials and errors, and you know, the first ones we made where they fit perfect, and then when we went to put the lens in, it no longer fit. It was too big for the hole.
Are you married?
Yeah.
How'd she go with that going in the oven?
She's been married to me for 20-some years, long enough. She just goes with it. If that was the stupidest shit I've done, she'd be happy.
She'd be in heaven, right?
Oh, yeah.
I get it, dude. I love it, man. Yeah.
So then moving to the bumper, we did this kind of the same idea with the rear bumper. We sunk it in, got rid of all the bolts, narrowed it width-wise, sunk it into the body as well. And on this one, we didn't have to add kind of the bullets or teardrops or whatever. This is kind of factory shape of the rear bumper.
But you have to cut into the body.
We had to cut into the body, and I believe we sunk it in roughly about 2 inches each side. So now the trunk, because obviously we had to cut all this down, that meant then building new panels here and building new latches and everything for it as well. Even the adjusters are sunk into the car, so they're not as big.
So off camera, you said you got roughly 6,000 man hours in the build of this car.
Yeah.
I'm really seeing the hours, dude.
And it does. Getting into the trunk, it's hard to see much, but you can even see there's gas struts. This was back before you could call your local company that'd send you a billet hinge with struts and everything on it. So we took the original hinge, reinforced everything, put gas struts on them. And all these panels you're looking at here, and even the bottom one, it's all made out of aluminum. It's not wood and cardboard like your typical upholstery shop does.
Idea.
And what that does is it allows it, if you get a car upholstered, normally it's wood or cardboard, whatever.
That's right.
You pull the panel off 3 or 4 times and it starts looking terrible.
Doesn't fit anymore, it looks like crap. Yep. Do these cover, is there like audio or batteries or any of that stuff?
There is, yeah. This
here?
one here pops off real easy. You can see batteries, and then there's amplifiers, air tanks, all the stuff to control the whole car.
Yeah.
So then kind of heading from there, the other part of the car that goes on is it still has a real convertible top underneath the hard Landau right there.
So under here, oh wow, that really, so this is another one that's all aluminum.
Yes, these pieces are all made out of aluminum, this and this piece, and then there's a real thin coat of foam over it, and then it was wrapped in leather. This essentially has 2 screws you undo, and this whole piece comes off, and all folds up, goes in your trunk, and then it has a power convertible top that will still come up. So it's a little bit of work, but just 2 screws and you're done.
Right.
The door handles are kind of hidden. It's something you just pull up on to where it's kind of hidden inside the armrest, but this is also a door pull to be able to shut the door. And then all the seats and everything are all basically factory Chevelle ones, but obviously we cut them all up. I'm a big fan of when you're standing back and you photograph the car and look at the car, you don't see any seats, so everything stays below the window lines on everything.
That's one of those, you know, it's funny, dude. People, I'll hear inevitably, I know one of you guys, at least one of you guys is gonna comment, well, that's not safe, you need a tall seat, la, la, la. And I agree, right? It's gonna be safer. It's gonna look like complete shit in this car.
Yeah,
it's gonna look awful to have seats sticking up to here.
Definitely.
It's gonna look horrible.
And this car was meant to look good, not be safe.
And you did say, by the way, this is a funny one, you guys. This car in 15 years has...
In the first 12 years of its life, it had 350 miles put on it.
So just really built it as a show car ultimately.
Yes, and then the customer I built it for, he's into the build of the cars. Once the car's done, it's not really his thing. He likes the build process, he likes making decisions, he likes doing all these fine little tuned things we've done with it. So with that being said, now we've got about 2,500 miles on the car. So we put another 2,100 miles on the car in about the last couple years.
Y'all do the build part, you know, I like driving. I'm obsessed with driving cars. I don't care if it's a fast or a slow car. If it's a cool car, I'm in heaven, man. I love this hobby so much because there's so many of us from different aspects of life that collide into this wonderful hobby, you know, and there's different elements that we all love about it. You love to build, I love to drive. We work really well together. If you need someone to come drive your cars for you, by the way, I'm your guy, just so you know. So these are actually factory Chevelle seats that you've just kind of
heavily
rebuilt.
modified, yes.
Yeah.
But the factory frame and springs are kind of still there, even though they've been very altered.
I love that you gave them the bolstering you gave them though, so you sit in the seat a bit better.
Yeah, and you'll see a little bit later when we go for a drive later, these are all gel filled and everything, so they're super, super comfortable seats.
Nice.
Going up to
What's that steering wheel from? I'm sorry to interrupt
no,
you, Sean.
go ahead. The
What's
steering wheel was
from?
actually, I don't remember the exact brand of it. It's been so long.
Yeah.
But it was originally a steering wheel, but then all this part was plastic. We went ahead and rebuilt all that out of aluminum. And when we originally built this car, if you notice, it has no shifter anywhere. Right here, you push on this is the upshift, and the indicator is actually in the rearview mirror. And then and then you push on this side, and this is the downshift of it.
How do you put the car in park, reverse, neutral, what have you?
So right now it's in park. You want to start going, it's this side. This would then you'd go reverse, neutral, drive, 2, 1. And then when you want to go back up, then you just start working it on this side. Obviously there's things built into it, so you can't go straight from drive into reverse and park and stuff. You have to have your foot on the brake, and you have to hold it there for it's like roughly 2 or 3 seconds, something like that.
Dude, I have never seen that before. Have you ever seen that on a car?
It was based off of kind of like the paddle shifters is what we were kind of going with.
Yeah.
But this was at a time when no one was doing anything like that.
That is so forward thinking, dude.
So then the next part of it is what we did is the dash on these cars normally goes to where the gauges are. It has a very similar cutout to what we have now, but then they come back down here and you have a glove box and everything that's all the way across.
Yeah.
Well, we decided to kind of sink it back in further and extend it all the way across and eliminate the glove box and everything like that.
Yeah.
Well, this piece here is a solid piece of billet aluminum that we had machined out. And if you look at it, you don't see like your traditional gauges, how you see the bezels and everything in them. The back side of this panel actually has way more work than the front side of it even, because it's all machined out to where the bezel slips into it perfect. so you don't see any of that. And then we created radiuses to go all the way around everything, including the air conditioning and heater vents.
I gotta say, you're a bit ahead of your time, man, that this is 15 years ago. So much of this you had to make, you couldn't go to a catalog.
Definitely, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
That and having the customer that's willing to let you do it all.
That's just willing to go as deep as you're ready to go, huh?
Definitely, and
Wow.
and even the little things, like the little steering wheel cover, underneath for the steering column, that's all made out of steel. They never had that; it was plastic pieces originally.
What's the rear view from?
The rear view was it actually was the HomeLink type. Back in the day, I want to say we went to like Circuit City or Dow or something and bought the little mirrors that you could that had the HomeLink. So originally that would have been a compass, and we cut it all apart and pulled it all apart and put the gear shift indicator inside of it.
So that's how you know what gear you're in, as it comes up on your...
100%.
Can we ignition on to see this?
Definitely. The only problem with it was because of the size of how small that is, we had to turn it sideways.
I get it, right, because it doesn't have the height. You gotta be kidding me, dude. Wait, so you have a controller over here as well?
I have a manual override here as well.
So if this fails you're not
Yes,
stuck.
plus that way if you're turned like this, you've got to think, okay, what the hell am I doing, So there's a manual override over here on the side as well.
Dude, this is one of my favorite parts of this hobby is when stuff like that is not thought about, it drives me up the wall, because God forbid something fails you there, or like you just said, you're this way and shit, where do I push it again to get it to park, to neutral, to reverse, whatever you want? You got it right there. That's smart. That safety latch on your front hood, smart. And you know this, dude, you've seen the cars out there. Not every builder thinks through every single little detailed element like that, and you know
Definitely,
what I'm talking about.
And my big theory is the way we built every car here we have in the shop is, in show cars sometimes you lose a little bit of serviceability,
Right.
But my theory is always, if we make that car serviceable, example, the oil pan, if we make it to where we can pull the oil pan off to reseal it, guess what, that car's never gonna leak. If we make it to where we can't pull that oil pan off, we have to pull the motor out, it's guaranteed that car's gonna leak.
And that owner's gonna be pissed at you
100%.
when he comes in for an oil change and it's a $2,500 oil change.
Definitely. So we put as much serviceability in them as possible, with the hopes of, if it's serviceable, we don't ever have to.
Brilliant, dude. There's some elements of this car that have dated itself, which is okay. I mean, that happens over time, but the thought that you've put into every element of this car to make it, for all 2,500 miles in 15 years, but that it's drivable and it's serviceable and everything's been thought through.
As
I'm
much
really
as possible.
impressed, dude. Truly, yeah. And by the way, I'm just a dude with an opinion like everybody else, but I'm really knocked out.
Opinions, there's lots of opinions out there.
That's right, right. All right, boys, let's go for a drive, man.
You'll see the brakes are power, but they're kind of shitty power. It's more manual than anything.
I'm okay with that. I like the stiffness of the steering as well.
Manual steering.
Is it manual steering?
He wanted manual steering on it.
I was wondering when I was watching you turn it around.
Ah, shit.
That's the extent of my getting on it, just so you understand where I'm headed.
Perfect.
Here. Shit like that, the manual steering, personally, I love it. The only time you're going to be upset about it is like you have
trying to turn around back
That's
there.
it. Sure is a pretty car though, man. Especially, gosh, dude, it really knocks me out that it's a 15-year-old build. I mean, I get it. 15 years, it's got 2,500 miles. No wonder it's so immaculate. It's barely been driven. Genuinely, man, I mean, my 30 seconds of seat time right away, I'm like, I drive this car all day long. The 700 R4 just proves itself over and again, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're old school. I mean, nowadays it's 4L60E or
the
LS and whatever.
Right. Yeah. It ultimately feels very similar to me. You know?
They are.
I mean, I'd drive this with a smile on my face all day and enjoy it. It's really funny with Bruce. Nice talking to him. You guys, by the way, I'm talking about the owner of the car, Bruce. He definitely said exactly what you said, which is his favorite part is the process
Yep.
and the choices made, not necessarily the driving of the car.
He likes to build them and be involved in the process, and then he's done with them.
You can tell it's the older kind of airbag style,
Definitely.
right? The bouncy of it and stuff.
That's kind of the air ride technology. They use small bags, so in small bags you have a lot of pressure.
Right.
I got into the automotive industry doing airbags, and we learned many years ago, before the hot rods were doing it, we put big old huge bags in them, and you could ride them with less pressure, and you get a lot better ride out of them.
Oh.
So I used to build like monster trucks and stuff as well, and we'd build them on airbags.
You've seen dramatic changes in the technology there as well, huh?
For sure. And I've done everything from the lowriders to used to build SWAT team cars and bulletproof cars and
Have
surveillance
you done full
vans.
hydraulic kind of lowriders?
Yeah. Wasn't my top choice, but
Yeah, sure. Tell you what though, I've ridden in 3 of them now, 3 or 4 of them. You can't ride in those with a straight face.
no.
And you can't be upset either. You're just smiling the whole damn time.
And being as fat as I am, as big as my boobs are, I got boob bounce and everything.
Yeah, there's this guy we shoot with. We've shot a couple times with him. His name's Long Beach Lloyd. You can probably guess where he lives.
Yeah.
Long Beach Lloyd's one of those guys that you just go, yeah, I'm never going to be as cool as that. It's just not possible. But man, the first time I rode in his lowrider, he's like, I want you to try doing this and try to keep a straight face. And he starts hopping us down the road. And I'm just laughing my ass off, having a blast. And it was really funny. I go, hey, your car seems to track pretty straight. And we're going 35 miles an hour. And he lets go of the wheel and the car makes a hard left.
Yeah. With the 13.7s.
Oh yeah, those Daytons, you gotta have them. And those damn little ass tires you put on there.
So what got you into doing the filming stuff if you do car storage?
Me and Chris were at this car event a few years, 6 years ago now. I see this line of people, like these guys are waiting like 2 hours to get their picture with this young, at the time, young kind of pimple-faced little kid. We were up in this green room above looking down. It's like, who's that? And they said, oh, his name's TJ Hunt. I don't know if you're familiar with TJ. He has a real huge YouTube channel now. He's well over 2 million subscribers. At the time, he was probably, I don't know, a couple 100,000, smaller than our channel is currently. That was what got me started, was the idea of, I'm around stuff like this all day and I can source cars like this all day to shoot. It's Southern California, dude, it's bottomless. I never have to leave Southern California to get to shoot great custom builds. Me and the 3 guys, me, Paul, and Chris all went, all right, let's give it 1 year, see where we're at after 1 year, and we'll see if we keep going. And, here we are 5 years later, still doing it. Oh, yeah. That's good for me. So funny. I mean, like, obviously I'm not hammering on it, but the car has plenty of power to go enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you put your foot in it, it gets up to speed just fine getting on the freeway and stuff like that.
But it's a cruiser.
It is. Funny, I love manual brakes. I mean, I get why some people don't like it because they feel like they're having to squeeze too much.
Everyone gets used to the modern day car.
I just got 0 issue with it. Yeah, it is funny the amount of bounce you get in the old systems like this.
There is. You got to drive them really, really soft to keep it comfortable.
Yep. Well, absolutely bitchin' cruiser in my opinion, man. The car just looks great, it sounds great, it drives great. The part that kind of knocks me out is that this is a 15-year-old build and that there was that much thought put into it that 15 years later it's held up as well as it does, it looks as good as it does, it drives as good as it does. We'll definitely be back out here shooting with Sean. I really appreciate getting to meet him and drive his car and seeing some of the other projects he's got going on in the shop. So you got to know, we're going to be back out here. I'm going to mention it again. The ATLA merch store is open. So if you want to buy the new design, head on over. We do still have some shirts and hoodies and a couple of the other goodies there available at atlamerch.com. And as always, genuinely, guys, I really mean it. I appreciate you hanging out with us and watching and supporting what we do here at the channel. And I'll see you in the next episode. All right, man. Later.